Hello everyone and welcome to The Good Old Gamer. So this is an impromptu video because AMD just dropped some bombs. And we really need to talk about that because they're coming out guns a-blazing. And yeah, this is some pretty exciting stuff, talking about FidelityFX Super Resolution. Still think that there could be a better name for that. But FSR, they have APUs finally coming to the desktop, or at least they're announced to come to the desktop. Not super surprising there, but it's nice to know that it's going to actually be a thing. And the mobile segment. So if you are a laptop PC gamer, AMD's got some pretty big stuff coming to that market. And overall, this really paints a different picture for AMD and specifically for Radeon moving forward. So the AMD of the past would normally just roll over and take it and eventually maybe fight here and there against Nvidia. Now, AMD is literally taking the fight to Nvidia. So the first thing I want to talk about is the FidelityFX Super Resolution. So real quick, I'm just going to get the slides out of the way. Jumping over here on video cards, they obviously have everything. The big stuff here is they're talking about up to 2 times performance at 4K. Really, the big stuff that they showed was this, where there are multiple modes, which is kind of nice, very similar to Nvidia's DLSS, where you can have obviously higher image quality, or you can go ahead and have higher frame rate. So if you have a weaker GPU and you need a higher FPS, you have an option, but it's going to degrade image quality. To me, this is an alternative from lowering the resolution scaling. So like if you run a game at 1080p at like 70% resolution scaling, you might need that to get performance. Instead, you can just lower the option here and the game should look much better than just simply lowering the internal resolution. Now, obviously, the ultra quality and quality settings, these are the ones that most gamers are going to want to use. Coming down here, it's a video. They don't have the slide, but as you can see, it might be a little hard. I'll zoom in. You can see that on the 6800 XT, this is running like max settings at 4K. They're getting a plus 59% uplift, and this is using the ultra quality preset. So image quality there, if you watch the video, I'll put a link in the description below. I'll actually be playing some of it for you here as well. You can tell that the image quality is degraded a little bit, but for a 60% performance uplift, it's definitely going to be worth it. So for anybody that's wanting those higher frame rates or run higher resolutions than the GPUs could technically run right now, that minor hit to image quality is certainly going to be worth it. So this is just like adjusting quality settings to get more performance out of your game, except you don't have to do it. You just basically just adjust FSR. Now, what else is really cool is something that we kind of theorized that it would also work on Nvidia GeForce graphics cards. And they showed this. Actually, in the podcast that I recorded today, I recommended AMD do exactly this. So AMD, good job. Your marketing is finally catching on. This is the way to do it. So they use the GeForce GTX 1060, same thing, Godfall. They were using 1440p max settings. With this card, they were getting about 27 FPS, and then using FSR, they were able to get it up to 38 FPS. This is a 41% increase. Now, this means GeForce GPUs that do not use DLSS will work with FSR. This is basically showing right here that this is the superior solution to DLSS. Even if DLSS has a slightly better image quality, the fact that this works on cards that DLSS does not means it's going to have a wider adoption rate. Now, what this means is AMD is essentially going to kill DLSS. DLSS is running on borrowed time. Nvidia has done a good job getting it implemented into a lot of different game engines, and a lot of games are now starting to support it. But the fact that this will run on both Nvidia and AMD GPUs, it's going to be open source or open or whatever, so people are going to be able to tweak it. It's going to be very easy to implement. It's eventually going to get into everything, especially since it's going to be supported by the consoles. Once that happens, DLSS might still be supported like alongside it, but eventually developers are just going to switch on over. And this will become the standard upscaling technique for this generation of consoles. Next generation consoles might have something different by that point, but for this generation, this is going to become the standard. And the fact that you may have an old GeForce graphics card AMD is now going to give you a performance bump. So even GeForce users are going to want this implemented in their games. The majority of them. That's why they use the GTX 1060, because that group has an overwhelming command on the Steam hardware survey. So that's a large portion of the gaming community out there. In fact, I think it's like 1060. I'm just going off my memory here, but it's like 1060, then like 1650, like 1050 Ti, and then I think fourth or fifth is an RTX 2060. So very far down on the stack is an RTX card that can actually use DLSS. So a large majority of the PC gaming community are going to be able to use this. If you are an RX 580 or 480 owner, congratulations. You're just getting another 50 to 60% performance bump. So that graphics card is never going to die. Congratulations, you bought the winner. I said a long time ago the 1080 Ti was like the best graphics card ever due to its longevity. I may have to amend that. The 8GB RX 480 and 580 may literally be the graphics card that never dies. Now, I do want to circle back to that 60% uplift mark. Obviously, this is using Godfall. This is an AMD-sponsored title. It's obviously going to be heavily optimized for this. So let's say worst case scenario or more realistic case scenario, 40%. And that's using the ultra quality preset. That's still great. That's getting you like a tier and a half above where your graphics card would normally be. So for example, if you have like an RX 580, you're getting probably pretty close to like a GTX 1080 or 1080 Ti level with FSR on there. That is a big deal, especially if you are a more budget-oriented gamer, 1080p gamer, and you game mostly at 60 to 120 FPS, depending on the title. This is just going to extend how long your graphics cards last, and that is awesome. This also works on AMD APUs. The Aya Neo that I bought that'll show up eventually, this will work on that, which means that little Vega 6 integrated graphics there now has much more punching weight to it than it did before. So I'm super excited about this, and it's really going to come down to how fast developers can get it in there. And then obviously we do have to scrutinize the image quality settings, but particularly on lower end or entry-level parts. Like I said, if you have an old RX 580 and you need to sacrifice a little bit of image quality to keep your GPU going for another 2 or 3 years, I think that that's worth it. That's just my opinion. You let me know down in the comment section below. All right, so this isn't everything that AMD did. There's more. But wait, there's more. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 5700 and 5600G. Now, this is going to be a quick one because we've already seen these before. They were just announced for OEMs. I gave AMD crap about that because these were very much needed this year, considering GPUs cost like 5 times more than they should. It's the same Cezanne G, chip that's already out there. But we're going to be getting the 5700G coming in at $360 USD, and then the 5600G at $260 USD. So these are less expensive, particularly the 5700G is significantly less expensive than the 5800X. This is $80 less. This is only $40 less than the 5600X, but still $250 for a 6-core. That is a little bit on the high side, but at least it's in the range of what I would consider acceptable for a 6-core 12-thread CPU, and same could be said at $360. It's on the high side of what I think an 8-core 16-thread CPU should cost here today, but it is in the range. So this is bringing Zen 3 to a more affordable level. And honestly, for me, something like the 5700G makes a lot of sense in the PC I'm using right now. I don't need a lot of graphics horsepower because I don't game on this machine. So I think I might actually pick one of these up, replace my 3700X because I need the CPU horsepower, and then I can just sell off my discrete graphics card, or I can put it into another machine if I wish. Now, I was debating on talking about the clock speeds and all that, but we already know what all that is. It's the same chip that came out before, so not that big of a deal. It is coming to desktop August 5th. That's, what, like 10 months after Zen 3 launched? I mean, it's 10 or 9. It's a long time since it came out, but at the same time, we were finally getting lower prices on Zen 3. Zen 3 is comparable, if not superior, to Rocket Lake. Obviously, Alder Lake's coming later this year, But still, like I said, there are use cases for these. Personally, I'm interested. I already have an AM4 platform. I'm not going to buy Alder Lake unless I want to do it for testing for the channel. And then I'd probably sell it off immediately following, unless it offers something dramatic. So we'll have to wait and see. Regardless, Zen 3 is more than enough performance for a guy like me. And if you're a gamer, it's good. But for the most part, if you're using a discrete graphics card, you should probably still stick with something like a 3700X because, well, it's cheaper and you're not going to really see that big of a difference in your game performance. All right, so the next big thing is the announcement of the mobile GPUs. Many of you just play on desktop and you don't care about laptop, but laptop gaming is a big deal. And in laptop is where we see how much more efficient AMD is compared to Nvidia. So let's go ahead and check that out. All right, so I honestly thought that they were just going to be launching Navi 23 and using that for mobile, but they're actually making the RX 6800M and they're using the full Navi 22. All 40 CUs there, 12 gigabytes of RAM, all the infinity cache. It's a Navi 22. So basically it's a 6700 XT just with lower clock speeds to go ahead and fit in the power envelope. Now, this is where things get interesting is basically you're getting not the full fat experience, but pretty darn close. I'd say at least 85-90%, coming in at only 145 watts. So this is a heavily binned part. That's probably the reason why they had to go ahead and hold these back, because these are much, much better binned than what we get on the desktop. And according to AMD, they can, they as in the system integrators, they can go ahead and amend that so they can lower clocks and drop TDPs if they need to fit their form factors. The 6700M is actually the interesting one because this is the first 36 CU Navi 22 that we're seeing. We all expected a RX 6700 on the desktop, a non-XT variant, basically being very similar to this. It's also kind of interesting that they dropped the bus down to 160-bit. So what they're doing is they're removing one memory module, which is 32 bits, getting you down from 192 to 160, and that also drops you down from 12 gigabytes to 10 gigabytes of GDDR6. So that kind of makes sense, and realistically, if we do see an RX 6700 on the desktop, they may do the same thing. So if that does show up eventually, we will likely see it also having a 160-bit bus with 10 gigabytes of GDDR6. That actually does make a lot of sense considering the desktop version of this will likely be in comparison or competing with the 3060 Ti, which is a $400 card. And to get the price down, removing a memory module, that really helps out a lot. Regardless, this one, the TDP, not too much different. It's basically the same. Now, to me, the most impressive part is the 6600M, which is using Navi 23. This is our first look at Navi 23, which will eventually come to desktop, maybe. Considering how good this is likely going to be the GPU that most laptop manufacturers are going to want to use. So this is coming in with 1792 stream processors. That's 28 CUs. We expect Navi 23 to have 32 CUs total. So this is a cut down die from what we guess. We don't actually know for sure that it's 32 CUs, but that's been the rumor forever. Regardless, it's got the 128-bit bus, 8 gigs of RAM, that we were all expecting. But the big thing is it's coming in at only 100 watts, and that's still at 2177 megahertz clock. So that is actually very, very efficient. And you could take this very easily and drop it down to 80 or 60 watts, and it'll be competitive with NVIDIA's Max-Q chips. Now, I don't know if AMD is going to allow them to drop it that much, because obviously you drop that much, you're basically in a different performance tier, or if the Navi 24 that was rumored to come out will fill that slot here soon, so system integrators won't worry about it. Regardless, this is going to be 5700 level, RX 5700 level at 100 watts, guys. Now, the 5700 was already pretty efficient at 150 watts on the desktop. This might actually be faster. Still, that to me is very, very interesting. And realistically, Ampere is no better in performance per watt than Turing was. And that means basically the laptop market from Nvidia has been stagnant since Turing. There's been no performance uplift per watt. And if you want to check, Tim from Hardware Unboxed, he did some videos comparing them, and you get the exact same performance at the exact same power draw. It's not really rocket science there. Regardless, this is really important in this segment because obviously batteries only hold so much power. The power bricks can only pump out so much power. So efficiency is huge. And it looks like the Navi 23 and even the bin Navi 22 is going to offer significantly better performance than their Nvidia counterparts for the first time since probably the 5000 or 6000 series, the HD 5000 or 6000 series, and that was 2009-2010 period. So AMD is really flexing their technological advantage over Samsung's manufacturing process and their performance per watt here. And this is going to give them a lot of inroads into the laptop market. And I know, like I mentioned a few times, I know a lot of you guys don't really care about that, but that's a huge moneymaker. That's a huge market, and that's something that Nvidia really does not want to lose. Once they start eating into that market share, Nvidia is really going to start feeling it, and AMD is going to be bolstered even further. Like I said, this is a much more aggressive Radeon particular. I mean, obviously the 5700G and stuff's AMD, but we all knew that, well, we all hoped that was going to happen. Now we know it is. But RTG is really coming out swinging, showing off the GTX 1060, running their technology and running better than on Nvidia technology. I'm literally telling you, at this point in time, AMD has made Nvidia products better using AMD. That is huge. That is going to end DLSS. Just once that sinks into people's mind, hey, my GeForce is better with AMD stuff. This is going to get AMD into people's minds that maybe always bought a GeForce card. It's like, man, AMD makes my GeForce faster. This is huge. This is game changing. And this means we're going to have real competition moving forward. Downside is this means we're going to see more Nvidia-like pricing from AMD, but that's another topic for another time. Paul and I talk about that a little bit on the podcast. That's the negative side. The upside is you're not going to need as powerful a graphics card as you did before. With FSR, I mean, APUs are going to become viable for 1080p gaming, 1080p 60, and probably even 1080p 120 here in the not too distant future. And even old GPUs that are still good, RX 580 level graphics cards, they're still going to be kicking. Your old Vega 56, man, that thing's still going to be trucking. Even your old GTX 1060 is going to get a breath of fresh air and a new lease on life here. And eventually Nvidia is just going to have to support this because old Nvidia cards are now, this is the only way you're going to get this performance boost. Everybody who skipped RTX 2000 series and can't buy RTX 3000 series, so that's the majority of gamers, could not get their hands or did not want to get their hands on, you know, this new DLSS capable technology out there. Now they don't have to. Even better, the GTX 1080 Ti owner just sitting there like, can I get something good? A good replacement at $700? I know the 3080 looked good, but nobody could buy those. Anyone? Yeah, guess what? You don't need to buy anything anymore. AMD just gave you another 25 to 40% performance boost on all games supporting FSR. So congratulations. And like I said, once you think of things in that sort of mindset, it's like there's no way that this is going to fail. So I'm super excited. My old technology just got better. We won't have to wait long to test this out for ourselves. Coming June 22nd, the first games that are going to support this will be available. We'll be able to see the image quality adjustments and all that kind of stuff. Now on super high-end cards, this isn't that big of a deal. You're running native res anyway, and if you don't want the image quality hit, don't worry about it. But this is, like I said, super important for anybody running older cards or lower powered cards or mobile cards or just basically anybody not running super high-end cards. This is going to be a big benefit to them, even if there is a little bit of a performance hit. I do want to give a shout out to Celso from Cortex. He was the guy saying it was coming in June, and well, he was right. So you should definitely check out his videos and his channels as well. He's a good friend of mine, and he catches a lot of hell when he's wrong, but we got to give it to him when he's right. Well, alrighty, guys, now I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Comment section below. Remember, hit the like button and all that good stuff. YouTube really needs to know that you guys like these videos, so I really appreciate that. But I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this. I'm super excited. Everybody wins here. There are no downsides that I can see. And when I see win, 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 win for us, the customers, the enthusiasts, that's a great day. I do feel bad for Nvidia and their keynote because nobody gives a shit about the 3080 Ti and 3070 Ti because you're not gonna be able to buy them. They're overpriced. Check out the podcast, which we will probably delay because this information's so big. And, well, it's supposed to come out tomorrow, but now we have the information afterwards, so we might amend it. So just keep an eye out for that. I always post the things saying when they're up. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. You can hear Paul from Not an Apple Fan and I discuss this stuff. And, yeah, hope you guys have yourselves a great day. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.